Hi, it's Tom, and I've got another question from an NLPTimes visitor. The question is, how can a team leader who is perceived as weak change dominant behavior in a team context where the team is made up of highly educated and experienced but dominant individuals? And how can I change their perception of me so that it's more positive? Okay, it's a good question and it's a tricky situation, but the solution actually is quite easy. The first recommendation I'd give, if you're in a context where you're team leader and you're being perceived as weak because you've got a bunch of alpha males or females who are very dominant. Well, one recommendation is have a look at Cesar Millan, the Dog Whisperer. You know, it's a fantastic show, and one of the things you'll watch there is how Cesar Millan treats and interacts in terms of with the dogs and deals with behavioral issues of packs is a great learning point for how you can interact better in a work context. So with that said, I want to introduce a second point, and that is this, that if you're a team leader and you're being perceived as weak, then there is some reason, assuming that's true, as to why that is the case. What you want to pay attention for is that there are any environmental conditions that, for example, if there's some kind of politics going on that you got promoted to a team leader position, or if there was a merger in an organization and you were with company A and you've merged with company B and company B is the smaller company, and in that context you're seen as an external person to the company, and there's some upheaval or political unrest, or people are basically browned off in the smaller company. If there are any of these external factors that are influencing the perception of the team members in your team, for them to think negatively or weakly of you, then they're the things you need to address. So in terms of one of the things you'd use is that a person who's an alpha doesn't need permission to speak up in a team meeting. If they're leading the team, they're not looking to the team sheepishly going, well, what do you think? Yeah, they interact. They may take consensus of people in the team, but it's very clear as the team leader, you're the one that makes the decisions, you're the one that allocates the resources and assigns the tasks that people are going to be doing, for example. So if you want to be perceived as a strong team leader, then you need to lead. That means you need to be out in front rather than behind. Cesar Millan would be coming from the point of view of the pack leader, never is waiting for the rest of the pack to catch up. Necessarily, dogs don't act like that. If they fall behind in terms of that in the home context, it's typically because they don't perceive you as the alpha. And so in that context, they don't see you as worthy of leading them. So to recap, one, check out Cesar Millan, look at the intervention strategies he does in terms of with packs. There's loads of great material you can use there in a professional context. Two is identify if there are any environmental factors that are leading to the perception of you being perceived as weak within the organization or within the team. Three, demonstrate leadership, which basically means if you are the leader, and if somebody's giving you flack or they're disagreeing with you, you let them know, look, I appreciate your opinion, I appreciate that this is the perspective that you've got on it. Ultimately, the decision is my responsibility. I'm the one that signs off on it, and this is where we're going to go with this. And you basically lead. And as an alpha, again, isn't looking at permission for them to lead the team. They are, if you're a team leader, you've already been empowered by somebody in the organization to lead that team. The fourth thing is, you mentioned in terms of, which was an interesting one, containing highly educated and experienced but dominant individuals. Now, that may infer that you don't perceive yourself as highly educated or experienced because you mentioned that. Now, it may be the case that you are, but either way, is if you want to win people who are highly educated and experienced but dominant, some people, because they have more knowledge or they're more experienced, etc., get off and try and position themselves as a know-all within the team. And it's a form of bullying sometimes. So if you've got that going on, one thing is you have a couple of strategies. Use the strengths of the people in your team. So if somebody's particularly knowledgeable and experienced in a particular area, use their strengths. Lean on them in terms of saying, look, if the guy's name's John, we're working on this project. we're going to need this, this and this. I've been looking at in terms of what you've been doing for the organisation for the last 18 months. I think you're the best candidate for that. I'd like to get you involved. Are you okay? And you will win people over. Because people like the old, touching on the back of the neck in terms of metaphorically, not literally, of stroking the ego. And if you've got somebody who perceives themselves as highly educated and a dominant individual, and they've got a lot of experience, then by showing some respect to that and also looking to get their input at the appropriate time and under the conditions where it's you're inviting that in, rather than you're begging or requesting that they help you, will create a position of strength. So I've given you about 4 different strategies there. Applying any one of these will make a difference. The final one I would leave you with, and it's the one that you can apply right away, and that's your state. When you interact with people, you've got to believe in you, that you, deserve to be in that role, that you are competent and skilled at doing your job. And bottom line is that you see yourself as the person who's going to deliver the result through your team and with your team that the organisation is looking for. If it comes down to your state, if you see yourself and hold your self-image as you are a mover and shaker, you're a person who's going to help the team get to where it needs to, even if some people are kicking and screaming, then you will influence the team in a positive light. At a minimum, they may not necessarily like it in some contexts, and that depends on the individual as to which appropriate tactic and strategy you may use. But bottom line is they're not going to be perceiving you as weak, and they will give second thought to the idea of undermining you or trying to embarrass you, for example, in a meeting, or however it is that it's coming across as a behaviour right now. Hope that's helpful. If you have other specific questions around this, feel free to submit them at NLPTimes.com or via YouTube, and I will do my best to respond to them. Have a great week.